Today on Off and On the Clock, we're going to do a little exposure review, checking in on the guys we keep clicking in drafts. Of course, we will be doing a draft as well. And we also need to figure out who is this dude that bought a boat and named it BBM4. All of that and more on today's Off and On the Clock with John, Pete, and Nez. Let's do it. All right, we are back. Last week, no regular Wednesday show, although these guys joined me on Best Ball Breakfast for a fun draft. How are we doing, my fellow BadgeBros here?
Doing all right. I was telling John in the green room, I've got like a couple like petty ailments going on with my body that are like pissing me off. Like I'm getting super congested in the middle of the night. Maybe because I'm like choking and thinking about like being on the clock and all these slow drafts now that I'm trying to max the puppy too. I've got like this like strange eye pain. So I've got these like weird ailments going on top of the fact that I am like on this quest to get 1,000 drafts done. So I think maybe just all that is just too much stress on my body. But other than that, Pete, I am excited to be here. This is always a fun show.
John, how about you? Is it cold? I mean, like it is. How are you in a hoodie right now?
I don't know. To be honest, I had the AC on when I did a show this morning already and had the AC on, and then I just got myself a little cold. So no, it's not cold here, man. It's like 18 degrees. It's 60, 65, 68. So it's not like warm, but it's like,
I mean,
it's not
what a flex on how good your AC is. I mean, my God, how rich. There's like if John actually just has someone slightly off screen that is just fanning them with a palm frond is how I like to imagine you do all of your streams.
John's in an apartment, right? You got that apartment AC is just like next level.
There you go. Yeah. Condo life, baby.
Nez, what was someone accusing you of being, I saw a very funny interaction in the BadgeBros Discord channel where someone thought you were auto drafting, but you weren't actually auto drafting. That was a team you were willingly drafting.
That was very funny. They said, Nez, I don't know if you know this, you're on the clock in a fast sprint. And I said, brother, I literally selected both of those picks by hand. It was, I think it was a Bijan and Jonathan Taylor start, getting a little high T in the sprint streak.
That's what prompted. I assumed you took like 6 running backs accidentally through like 7 rounds. All you did was start running back, and that's what leads to an accusation. Can you believe
that's the state that we're at? Like, hey, you took 2 of the top 3 running backs in the NFL. Like, are you sure you're actually in the room? Couldn't believe it.
I was thinking about that dynamic again from this past Monday's Best Ball Breakfast because I had JJ on, JJ Zacharyson, late round quarterback, and we took Bijan at 110, which I have no problem with, but I was just like, I know what's about to happen. And we just got absolutely buried in one of the worst avalanches. And it's like, it's just not a fun time for anyone involved. The team was fine, but you're just like reaching 25 picks for every wide receiver at one point. I was like, welcome JJ to the world of Underdog Best Ball Bros.
Those are the ones
not on stream.
Yeah, those are the ones I was about to say you try behind closed doors. Finding out that JJ was a light mode broke my heart though, but he's leaning into the bit today for his show.
Well, I thought he said on Twitter that he capitulated and he's already back to dark mode. Okay. Yeah. It was so funny because I was like, all right, I'll do this in solidarity with you. The chat's all pissed off. And I thought JJ was just like fully committed to it. And the dark mode bullies are so vicious that even JJ, who has like 1 million Twitter followers, was like, fine, I won't swim against this current.
Yeah. The JJ coming full circle as Best Ball Bro is pretty cool for me because like just on a personal level, because like when I got into playing these games and stuff, it was like some of the really early stuff that you were doing on. It was some of the old school Matthew Berry looking for 8 fantasy points in standard scoring per week there. And then it was JJ and Denny like live in the stream, man. Like someone's got to remake that Live in the Stream song, but turn it into a Best Ball song because that thing was iconic. I would be singing along in my car, you know?
It's funny you mentioned that because I was the same way with JJ. When I first started playing fantasy football, like pretty seriously, like, and by that, I mean, I went from 1 league to like 3 leagues. It was 2010 and I just moved out to Boston. And I remember on my lunch breaks at my day job, I had a burner Twitter account at the time. And I would write to JJ fantasy questions on Twitter and JJ would answer me. And so then to be doing, Best Ball Bro with JJ getting buried in an avalanche, 14 years later is definitely surreal. But yeah, JJ, one of the legends. And if anyone around here hasn't checked out his Becoming a Best Ball Bro series, it's just a phenomenally produced podcast and entertaining. And he's, of course, bringing on fun guests. So I do highly recommend checking that out.
Yeah, definite cosign. Just caught up with the Leone episode, your episode. It's very, very good. Very well produced, like you said.
Yeah, we got to get him on the BadgeBros one of these times here.
Got to do it. He's making the rounds. He's down to, he's reaching out to all the best ball bros out here.
Yeah, we haven't made the cut yet.
Volume up, John. That's the problem. You only draft when you do a show.
He hasn't gotten to the scroll the F down portion of his best ball bro journey yet.
That's true. We're tailored for late in the draft window.
Yeah, that's right.
This I think can kind of segue into our exposure conversation. Have you guys been, I've been very patient with the scroll the F down stuff with BBM, I would say, not getting too crazy, but have you guys been pushing that in these time box contests? Obviously the Puppy 2 just wrapped up. Nez, sounds like you're in a bunch of slow drafts. Are you going to get a little crazy with the scroll the F down now that the contest is locked?
Totally would like to. I just haven't found that magic player that I would like to do that yet with. I know a few episodes ago, we talked about future scroll the F down targets, kind of trying to forecast who this could be. So definitely have that in mind. But I do have a player. But I'm not drafting him yet. But I am fully ready. If I get one piece of good news about this guy, I don't even know if, Pete, I'm not going to lie, I don't even know if I want to tell you guys about this guy. Did you know?
Can I take a guess?
You can. If you get him, I will leave the show.
Okay. I was going to lean into the Homer angle, and a guy I saw getting a little buzz, and I was going to say Calvin Austin.
No, it's not Calvin Austin, though I would. What if I told you there's a wide receiver on a team that is just totally barren of wide receiver talent, that is a rookie that ran a 4.4 and measures at 6'3" and went to Michigan? This is Cornelius Johnson, Pete. Cornelius Johnson for the San Diego, the LA Chargers.
Okay.
I am ready for just any small bit of news that Cornelius Johnson's running with the ones at camp. He's immediately an 18th round pick for me. I couldn't believe these measurements. He was like a last round pick.
Yeah, and then you go coaching rapport. Like obviously, like Harborough knows what he's getting in him. Wow, Nez, Dude, that's a nug, dude. I'm going to give you that one.
Do you know why that's so, that's next level gal brain? Because this is like someone is like, you know what? My scroll the F down is Brendan Rice. This guy on the Chargers not getting drafted. And Nez is like, hold my fucking beer. Keep scrolling, brother. To Cornelius.
Just the name Cornelius, too, is just so meme worthy. I mean, you give me a 6'3", 4.4 wideout. That's what kind of got me on Darius Slayton. Darius Slayton's rookie season. Like, this guy went to an SEC school. He runs fast. Let me get Darius Slayton. And that kind of worked out.
Who was that? When I hear Cornelius, I think of the guy 2 years ago, and then he got suspended for like the gambling stuff on Detroit that we did this same narrative with. He had good measurables.
Quintus Cephas?
Yeah,
Quintus Cephas. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. I'm hyping the name, all name team. Let's get in on Cornelius. Let's be the Cornelius guys.
What about you, John? Have you been flexing any of your scroll the F down in these time boxes?
Not crazy. I did a Bo Melton one in BBM this morning. Just kind of got like boxed out. So I did like a backdoor Bo Melton plus Tucker Kraft. So did like kind of like the contrarian Green Bay backdoor stack. But which is, it's fine. It's a little gal brainy, but it's nothing too crazy. No, not really, actually. I'd like your thoughts on what Nez is doing in the time box right now with flipping the front end of the draft board. Tell Pete what's up with the Tyreek one.
Oh, yeah, I did. So I just finished off my first round of these 70 or 55 slow puppy 2s that I'm in. Like I as soon as Underdog announced the Best Ball Gladiator program, I was like, okay, this is the only way I'm going to get this done. So I was drafting Tyreek Hill 2 over CD in the puppies, just thinking that gap isn't quite as like rigid as the market makes it out to be. Now, when I do BBM, I'm definitely respecting the market. I am playing the RNG game there, but wanted to have a damn take, and I definitely feel like there is a world where the Cowboys do underperform and Tyreek Hill continues to be the outlier that he's been literally since he has been in the NFL. So it was doing him over CD and then Bijan 6 every time as well in the puppy.
So I guess those are definitely stands, but do you feel like you're actually getting combos that are different from everyone else by doing that?
The only time that I do feel like I'm getting combos that are different are not with those players, because I'm not like reaching a ton for the second round pick with those.
Yeah.
I am doing a lot of Jonathan Taylor pick 13 though. That is, I do feel like I'm getting unique, and thinking through that Jonathan Taylor pick more and more. I mean, I'm honestly, the more I think about it, I'm not sure how Jahmyr Gibbs can go ahead of him. It just, to me, just does not make sense from just everything that we've known, everything that we've thought about fantasy football up until this moment tells us that Jonathan Taylor should be going ahead of Jahmyr Gibbs every time. And it's not like that yet. And these are just some of the stances that I'm trying to take. I can't go full streamer bro when it comes to my exposures and my builds. We need to go back to tradition a little bit and draft Jonathan Taylor, a grown-ass man who's probably going to touch the ball a ton in Indianapolis. The RB2 is Trey Sermon, and they probably don't want to throw the ball a lot with Anthony Richardson. I'm just, not too good with numbers, but just doing some math.
Well, I think the pushback would always be that they're going to use a big-bodied Anthony Richardson around the goal line, and then some of those scramble opportunities take away both carries and dump-offs to running back, right? Like, I think that would be, like, the first pushback.
I think the main pushback is just that he didn't look like his, rookie year, sophomore year self when he came back. And we were all kind of like squinting. And we're like, Zach Moss kind of looked better than he did in this offense earlier in the year. And I think that's lingering, because I do think if we get peak Jonathan Taylor, I completely agree. He should be going ahead of Gibbs. I think with Gibbs, he just had a far sexier and cleaner into his regular season. And then the other thing is you pay this contingent upside tax for Gibbs, where drafters, myself included, everyone can tell themselves the story. If Montgomery got hurt, like, Gibbs is probably the 101 in that scenario. And so I think that where there's no contingent upside for Jonathan Taylor, like, he is who he is, like, we're expecting him to have that. So I think those two dynamics, but I hear you. I was cool on Taylor early on. I'm still a little light on him, but like Sean is still really on him. Gretsch is still really on him. And I think being willing to kind of throw out some of that wonky efficiency at the end is probably smart.
Yeah, and I, Zach Moss did look better than him last season. I mean, that was I was also in that camp that, like, hey man, like, Zach Moss looks good. Willing to excuse that for him coming fresh off an injury and a obviously, like, objectively lost season with Anthony Richardson hurt. So I'm not too concerned about them easing him back.
The other one with Gibbs versus Taylor is the fact that if we look right now, the Colts have one game with a team total greater than 48, and they have two with less than 44, whereas the Detroit Lions have 12 greater than 48. So if we're just looking for points being scored and like shootout environments, like, Lions offer that in today's metric, like what we know now. We could come out here and see the Colts go burr, obviously, but yeah.
Yep. What have you let's go into some more exposure stuff. Do you guys want to view it through the lens of like total drafts, just BBM, just like recent puppies, most recent stuff? How do you want to frame it, John?
I think BBM is its own beast, but I also think this point in time, it's probably the least interesting. So I think, like, maybe amalgamating them feels fine. Yeah, I mean, I only have, to be fair, the majority of my sample is BBM, and it's 28 drafts or whatever. So I kind of need to keep it in because I have 72 total here. So yeah, yeah, my volume is like less than like your guys's will. So I let's just talk cumulative and then talk through it a little bit.
Pete, how many drafts are you up to total?
Total, yeah, I was actually just pulling that up here. I know I just crossed on the like post, non-big board stuff. I think I had just crossed 100, and then I ended up putting in like 10 puppy slows or something. I'm not going to go crazy, but
Didn't want to. I did a lot of fast thanks to the sidekick, but
I will. Yeah. So I'm at 103 and then, 20 some slows total going. I had fun. Like when I was in Colorado, I was just for exercise since I didn't have my gym equipment. I was just doing cardio club runs. And normally I do my cardio club like on the bike or whatever, but I was just raw dogging it, like Neil and those guys do where they just run on the phone. And so I'm running around my old neighborhood cardio club, drafting some teams. So I did get in a few more puppies than I otherwise would. But what are you at on the 2024 season stuff?
Post NFL draft, I just crossed 250. I'm at 251. Okay. So 25% of the way to that 1,000 mark for the 50% rakeback, which I am making a goal. I think that is like a fun challenge for myself. And I do really want to do that. And actually that doesn't even include some of my, cause when I'm looking at the 2024 season, that doesn't include the sprints that I've done, the marathons that I've done, and the weekly winners, which that probably counts for like 15. But obviously that accounts for that gladiator program, which I am determined to get across that 1,000 mark. And I'm just constantly entering a weekly winners fast draft right now, because that feels the easiest to like autopilot and just like get done. Because like get my one QB, okay, because that's what I'm like committed to. So
one of the things like looking at my portfolio that I think is kind of interesting is I've definitely felt like I've had two waves of drafting, like that initial wave when the contest opened and I was really trying to dial in on the guys who I thought were going to rise. And some of those I was right on, and now I'm not drafting them as much. Like Jaden Daniels and Malik Neighbors were two of my highest owned. They still are, but their percentages have come down because I'm now just taking them at ADP as opposed to hammering them as a target in every draft. And then some of them like haven't quite budged, like Bucky Irving's ADP hasn't like budged a ton. So like I just continue to draft him. But those two kind of windows, I basically viewed the opening window and now like this settled window before training camp starts. And that's kind of how I feel like my exposures have been divided.
Does that lead you guys to being like, you said you're hammering the Bucky Irving one? I guess this question is going to answer itself once we go like kind of position by position, but has it led you guys to being like, more exploitative early on in this window, this like I know ball window?
I mean, my highest drafted player is 23%.
Yeah, so no. The answer would be no then. Yeah.
I think it's tough. Go ahead. Yeah,
I have four guys over 20% in my cumulative. I'm a little heavier, I think, in some of the other specific tourneys, but yeah, 30% is my highest.
BBM, I'm way more concentrated, but like on the whole, yeah, I'm pretty flat, which is where I was last year. Basically, like my highest drafted player was Kyle Pitts and Jalen Warren at 25%. I have two highest drafted players at 23% in Debo and Chig right now. So
I mean, it doesn't sound like crazy high on the surface when you hear and see other people. Like I did the 1 week season show this morning with Mark, and Mark's at like 69% Cooper Kupp through like 280 drafts or whatever. And then like hit him with the gritty is like doing the 80% Claypool thing and stuff like that. And like Davis is doing 40% Noah Fant and whatever. So like on the surface, it doesn't sound like that crazy, but like 25% is still like 1/4 of your rosters are tethered to Kyle Pitts last year. Like it is still like a pretty decent, it doesn't sound like a big number, but it is a big number.
I just have, again, like there's good people on both sides of this debate. I just like, unless I think a player is mispriced, and I guess anyone who has that kind of percentage is going to say they think they're that mispriced. But I really did think that for Jaden Daniels early on, Neighbors when he was going mid to late third, I don't have the confidence once Neighbors is going next to Mike Evans and all of these guys that he's like mispriced. So where it's like, oh, I'm taking him at 2.4 every single time. So that's the thing that's hard for me is like, I feel like I would have this moment of truth, say the Cooper Kupp example, where I'm at like 40%. And then I'm like, is he that much better of a bet than DK Metcalf? Is he that much better of a bet than Tank Dell? Is he that much better of a bet than Zay Flower? And like, I just would never mentally be able to get there. It takes some incredible conviction that the market is wrong.
Yeah.
100%.
I mean, we're seeing a little bit of CLV in like the second and third round already because we're seeing DK move up, we're seeing Devonta Smith move up, we're seeing Cooper Kupp move up. But like that's not a reflection of them necessarily being mispriced originally. It's just the consensus is slowly starting to agree with you, right? So even when you're right, are you even right? Kind of thing. Yeah, I'm in lockstep with you guys there, where it's like it does take a lot to have that. Sorry, before we go into the no, go ahead, Pete. Sorry.
I was just going to say the other thing about it is I actually, and this is kind of like counterintuitive because most people say like, hey, make your stands super late. Because it's like those picks, they're unlikely to hit. Like, and if you do hit on this year's, Puka, like, I mean, if hit him on the gritty hits in Chase Claypool is this year's Puka, I mean, like the dude's going to have like a 75% advance rate.
Yeah. He might even have a pontoon.
Yeah. But for me, it actually makes more sense to go harder on some early round guys, like say in that Cooper Kupp range, because the way I'm making all of my final picks in the draft is almost all, correlation based. And it's like, okay, today I'm taking Jalen Tolbert because I had Dak, or I'm taking Jermaine Burton because I had Burrow. Like I'm letting the correlation kind of dictate who is the best pick for this team. It's harder for me to envision 17th round pick being the best pick for every single team I draft. Like that's just harder for me to get around. But again, to give Gritty some credit, he's doing all these hero wide receiver, punt wide receiver builds. So if you always need a wide receiver and you have this conviction that this guy is massively mispriced, I can honestly see how it would make sense in his mind on those teams, like structurally. But like I'm almost always done at wide receiver by that point. So I'm never going to have more than probably 20% of a late round wide receiver.
Yeah, like you can say what you will about the player selection. The way that he's executing it is actually sensical. It makes sense. I did this in MLB where we have outfielders that act as wide receivers are to BBM, where I liked two guys that are absolute duds. They are duds. Henry Davis and Matt Wallner, where I specifically left two spots every time when building outfield because I knew I liked these guys late. The jury's still out. There might still be time to hit, but I think if you do have those convictions, you do it smartly, then it can at least like kind of it makes sense in that regard. I will say, John, did you want to pull up? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll do that in one sec. The one thing I would tether to that is just like we have seen kind of like the biggest outlier maybe ever, and may never see it again in Kyron, Puka, and Sam Laporta last year. So and like Tank chasing. Too, and Tank, yeah. And chasing that dragon might, I mean, it doesn't matter who the player is and what the archetype of said player is, just chasing that dragon might not be the best. It might just be reactionary to last year. But I mean, I can't.
Last year might go down as one of like the biggest outlier seasons ever. Yeah. I mean, I was light on all those guys, I think, basically.
Well, and the fact that they also came on the back of like two guys that we thought were going to be fantasy studs 2 years before that. So we saw like one of the greatest outlier seasons ever in Cooper Kupp being like a 5th round pick and then having the one wide receiver overall number 1 like year. And then we all thought Cam Akers was going to be a smash too. He was a 3rd round pick and all this sort of thing. So then to see Puka and Kyron do it, like they would be, you wouldn't have thought to look to the Rams for those two pieces necessarily, even if you believed in the talent eval, right?
For sure. The other thing I should also mention, I did not for this week, but I have Gritty pinned down to do a DFS after dark, a best ball after dark, sorry, next Saturday. So if you guys are members on my channel, you'll be able to get access to that. Excited for that. But the other thing I was going to say with these heavy exposures too, and this is again giving credit people to the stands. They can come off of these stands. Like you can come down from 40% Cooper Kupp, 75%. Like you can just stop drafting him and you can end up in probably a much more palatable range. The question to me, and this is the hard part for me myself, is letting go of that anchoring bias, because there's this element of once you click a guy over and over, it's a psychological effect that they are a better pick than they are because you have that much of them. Like a good example for me last year would have been Rashad Penny. A guy that I just like loved. And the more I clicked him, the better of a pick he got. I needed him on every team and it became hard to pull off of that. I think if I was going to be a super heavy exposure guy, I would want to be super honest with myself. Like, let's use the Gritty example with Claypool. Like, what if the drumbeat is just like Mac Hollins is crushing? Mac Hollins is crushing. Like it is Mac Hollins as that next wide receiver playing on the outside. At that point, are you comfortable being like, I might have been directionally accurate on there being room for a wide receiver breakout here, but I now need to shift my exposure over to Matt Collins? Or is it just like, fuck, man, I made my Chase Claypool bet and we're going to keep going down with that ship?
I mean, that's the individual risk tolerance balance. You have to have that conversation in the mirror with yourself, because at the end of the day, like, exploitative exposures and player stance are just risk tolerance exercises, right? Like, it would be me midweek last year, like Thursday, looking at myself and be like, fucking Tony Pollard's in the second round now. Are we still going to keep going, buddy? Yeah, we are. Here we go. Right. Like, yeah. Let me hit on this real quick because there's a lot of discussion in the chat. We did it. Oh shoot, I hit the wrong one there. We talked through it at length yesterday on the program, but for those who aren't aware, Underdog Fantasy has rebooted the Gladiator program. They have it on a weekly payout basis. For those of you who play the daily streets, they have a tiered scale for that, and then you get some form of bonus cash rakeback associated with it. They have opened that up to now best ball players, and it is from April 29th, so backdated for all the drafts in which you've done in this window, all the way through to September 5th, which will kick off the NFL season. It is not sports specific either. So if you are drafting the double dribble, for instance, that is incorporated in this. And then just to clarify, rake back. So 50%, if you do end up doing 1,000 drafts, 50% rake back will be 50% of the rake paid. So not total entry fees. So to use BBM as an example, you pay $37.50 in total entry fees. You pay 10.3% rake, I believe it is, on that. The kickback in which you would get would be about $202, somewhere in that neighborhood there, if you ended up doing 1,000 drafts after that. That would just be the kickback for BBM. Anything else to add, gentlemen?
I'm trying. God damn it, I'm trying.
I was going to say two things. One, didn't you share it? Someone sent over, they calculated the math on what it actually is. Because I know everyone probably around here actually knows what rakeback means. I think sometimes I've seen there's a misconception that it's like 50% on your entry fees. The rake is the percentage that Underdog takes to administer the contest. So like in BBM, whatever it is, it's like $2 or something on the entry. So if you're getting 50% back on that, you're getting $1 back on each of that entries, if my math was correct. So it's just making sure people understand what that rake back actually means.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's right there. So like, according to, this is NF42, this is Nicholas. He was part of the Dog Bowl there. This is all the contests in which they have offered thus far. And then, total amount of entries on the left-hand side there, the price point in the middle there, what the total to max is the third column there. The rake is the fifth column. And then the final column would be implying if you had done 1,000 drafts total over the course of the summer, then that would be what you get back for that isolated contest. So, max entering a puppy and then max entering all the puppies would result in about $40 back for each of those puppies based on the rake. And you guys can see that it shifts a little bit because the rake isn't always fixed. It's like 10.4. It fluctuates between 7 and 11, basically.
And then you can do the math, right? Like the puppy's a good one. Those are $5 a pop. And so if you get $40 back, it's saying you max 150, 8 of your entries are comped, essentially. And again, John, you can speak to this too, like with poker. Nez knows this a ton from DFS. Like, it is really hard. Like, if you are a break-even player, an average player, then you are losing to the rake. You have to be an above average player to beat the rake. So when you reduce the rake or eliminate the rake, it allows you to be just a slightly better than break-even player, which is a much easier bar to clear, and not, have your ass handed to you in these contests.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like PokerStars, they were just known as rakeback pros. Like, you knew guys were out there comfortably losing like -1, 2 BB per 100 hands over and over and over again, and they were losing players, but they were making $100,000 a year in the rakeback program. So it was like they were just sitting and filling games for you.
Yep. I also want to mention, or Nez, do you have any other thoughts on the rakeback stuff?
No. You guys covered it really well.
I just wanted to mention another kind of Underdog related thing. The form for Underdog Cardio Club people who successfully completed that, the hats are ready to be shipped out, pretty slick hats. And to fill out the form and give your address to receive one of those, That link is in the UCC 2024 channel within the Underdog Fantasy Discord. I just went in there. I asked them to pin it, but if you go in there and just scroll up a little bit, you can see it. And if you are a UCC member, you fill that out and you'll get that slick black and gold running hat sent to you guys.
Nez has the same look on his face as me, where it's like, holy fuck, we didn't do that.
No. If I'm grandfathered in, baby, I'm good.
Okay.
I was looking for a link. I was gonna post a link to the Underdog Discord if you guys are not in there. It's in the comments.
Yeah, the UCC 2024 is under the general section, 4th channel down in there, and Edward posted the link to that Google form. And then Sam Berman had posted previously, and I think rebumped it today, what the hats look like. They're really slick. I buy a lot of like those running style hats, and it looks pretty nice.
Yeah, it's very helpful in the gym to as like a pseudo sweatband. If you don't want to look like a total hardo on the Stairmaster, you can just throw one of those hats on.
Exactly.
Get your Mr. Good boys in the chat, guys. Nuts.
Is there any? I feel like the only other thing that's always interesting for the exposure conversation, I know we didn't get like super in the weeds. We were talking more macro about it, but like, I guess it dovetails with that idea of like, you can always come off a heavy exposure. Like, what are the things you guys are looking to do, or I guess maybe something you're not happy with your current exposures, like with the assumption that your exposures don't perfectly reflect what it would be if you could just write them all down on a piece of paper.
Interesting. Okay. I would say the first one that I do like that that mine reflect right now is being super flat at the onesies, and those onesies being heavily tethered to stacking. And I'm definitely leaning into more 6 at the onesies positions this year, 5 or 6 at the onesies, comparative to like me being a little bit of a nit the last couple of years in terms of like just building like 2 6 8 2s over and over again, or some derivative of that. So I do like the fact that I'm flat at the onesies-esque and like correlating my touchdowns for these playoff style contests. Yeah. And then in terms of something that I don't like,
John,
I don't know, Nez, you go
every
first.
Single
all
one
the Steelers that I've made you draft. As far as mine, I like mine a lot more this year than last year. Last year I just had like a funny like looking at my exposures. Like, I know it's easier to get concentrated on the later round guys because I mean you can get them basically whenever and it feels better. But like I was like, I want the top of my exposure to have more good players. Like, very funny thing to say, but I'm like, I think I just need to draft better football players. So right now, like Debo being my highest exposed player feels good. And I love the way that my RBs look right now. I love the top of my RB exposures last year, and no regrets because you play it out a couple thousand times. Who knows what could have happened? My top 3 RBs were Jaylen Warren, and then I just locked up the entire Bears backfield, thinking that they were having way too much faith in Justin Fields and thinking that they could potentially be a good team. They were not. So really happy with the way that my RBs look right now. They're pretty flat, but it's a lot less like just the way that the RB prices are now. Tajay Spears and Brian Robinson going where I used to have to take, lesser backs at that price last year. It feels a lot better. If I could do something different, I wish I had more Bijan Robinson. I don't, across all of my drafts, I have 13%. I really want to find a way to get a ton of him, but I am scared of fading like the 150 target Amon-Ra season. But feel so confident that Bijan's going to be a super, super smash.
I don't know about for you, but like in a lot of my puppies, like people, even myself sometimes, will take Puka, AJ Brown ahead of Bijan. So like, I don't think it'll be hard for you to get to like 15%. Like if you're just always taking him at like 1.6, 1.7, 1.8, because he will fall a couple times.
That's true. I am getting like, I'm at 13% across all of my drafts. If you look at just BBM, I have 24% in BBM, and that's in 25 drafts. So it's kind of interesting. I am playing like the ADP game more in BBM, but I also have like 40% Deebo Samuel and 25% Bijan Robinson. So I'm also getting my guys over there too, but that will no doubt become flatter as I get to 150.
Nez, is that a Bijan jersey behind you?
That's why it's up there. It's because
Wow.
like Bijan is the stance. That is one of my first NFL equipment jerseys as a child of Michael Vick. Whenever they first came out with those new Falcons jerseys, and they were like the coolest thing ever. And I just shot my shot. Asked my mom, I'm like, can I get that? She said, yeah. I couldn't believe she said yes. And I thought it was so cool.
I think mine, and this is always my kind of like cop out answer because I feel like it's less player, but it's more kind of some of my structure stuff. I feel like I've been playing the hits with like, all right, I'll grab my elite tight end between the middle of round 4 through the middle of round 5. And I feel like it's pushing me to lots of similar builds. And I want to start pushing it a little bit more. Like I've started to get George Kittle in the 7th a couple times. And it's like, I think I can kind of have my cake, eat it too. Like I'm really into Bowers, playing him more as a tight end, elite tight end, and like stay true to the kind of like the structural things that I think are edges this year, but start bending it more format wise. I did that with Karain on a 0 RB draft on Best Ball Breakfast, and Sean too, where it was like a pretty 0 RB squad, but we just did 5. And so that's the kind of stuff I want to do. And I want to free up some slots to take some more Derrick Henry, some more Pacheco in rounds 4 and 5, guys I'm not getting to as much. And knowing like I can still build teams how I want. It's like you start with 3 or 2 wide receivers, you grab Henry, then Pacheco, come back, grab a wide receiver, and then you get Bowers later. And it's like I'm accomplishing the things I want, but I'm getting to builds that are just slightly different. So that's kind of like my big thing of like, don't get too in a rut of just what's comfortable, because I don't want to just build the same team over and over again.
Yeah, well said. I fully agree with that, Pete. My mindset has been very similar thus far with like the mold of like the pockets of what's available right now is like I just structurally fall into like 3 or 4 wide receivers, then an anchor RB, then an elite tight end. And then sometimes if I had like one of the Houston guys or I had Mark Andrews, I try and make it a stack, or Mahomes, I try and make it a stack. And then my first 7 picks look like 1-1-3 or 1-1-4-1 like over and over again, right?
Yeah. I was having fun with all my fast drafts in the puppy, partly because like I'm not accustomed to running and drafting. So I had to like remove some of like the friction of having to like think through everything, because I basically like run and then look at my phone right when I'm about to pick. So I was like, what I'm just going to do is just like extreme 0 RB teams. And so I was only taking running backs, quarterbacks, or tight ends through like the first 9 or 10 rounds. And I was doing some like funky teams where I had like 8 running backs because I had like 2 quarterbacks, 2 tight ends, 6 wide receivers, and then just finished the draft with 8 straight running backs. And so like, I do like doing some of those extreme things because then it like kind of pulls you back in. And I'm like, I got more comfortable with some of like the Bowers, the Dak, the Burrow, some of those Jaden Daniels, the guys where I'm like, let me play these guys as elites, even though their like typical cost wouldn't fall into that bucket.
Yeah, no, I like that. Like making yourself uncomfortable and giving yourself the path to get out of it. The do I know ball enough to make this logical, to wiggle out of this.
You didn't have any message requests, Pete, saying, hey, you're on the clock in this puppy. You're about to get your 8th RB. Like,
I got a few of those. So it was like, you just took 8 running backs. Are you okay? And I was like, well, to be fair, the first one was Devin Singletary. So
yeah, come on, folks. Context is important
here. Yeah. Nez, I see you got the board up there. Let's hop in something, but then I got one last exposure question that we can talk through while we do that.
Yeah, let's do it.
BBM can you stretch that bad boy to fit it? Okay.
Well, I mean, I'm on a wide ass screen. But
so like you're full screen right now?
Yeah, let me try.
Right. Sure.
Streamer problems. I know exactly what Nez is describing here.
Yeah, this beautiful monitor.
Mix in a couple fucking 46-inch wides out here, boys. Couple 30.
Mess up your structures and your screens there, Nez.
What do we get? What do we roll? The 105? Oh boy, we're gonna have a decision. All right, I'm gonna have to stop sharing just for a minute so I can do the window.
Sure, sounds good.
Okay. What was your question, John?
Well, I just want to know kind of like what everyone's kind of top 3 players and at each position coupled with the percentage is right now, and just kind of run position by position.
Yeah, my quarterbacks, and God, it's scary. Like Jaden Daniels is my highest, which again feels good. Very happy to be there. But then my next 2 are Justin Fields and Drake May, because I've done a lot of late 3 quarterback builds, and tacking one of Fields or May on is kind of like that third QB high upside hammer when I have a couple, boring pocket passers. Running backs are my most drafted. It's Chase Brown, Zach Charbonnet, and Bucky Irving. Wide receiver, Neighbors, Jaden Reed and JSN. Those two have kind of surged of late. Reed and JSN. Neighbors was an early one. And then tight ends, these are my favorite. Mark Andrews, Brock Bowers, and Trey McBride.
Oh, yeah. So you're heavy on that elite there when you get 3 tight ends being elite as your highest exposed. Wow.
So we're doing 3 at each position, top 3?
Yeah.
Okay. QB, I am Herbert, Lamar Jackson, and tied with Danny Dimes and Josh Allen. Doing a lot more Danny Dimes. Fading the late season bench foot.
I love
It's
it.
too good. At RB, he's too talented. At RB, it's Rico Dowdle, Chuba Hubbard, and Tyler Algier, ironically enough, despite being a Bijan Bowl. Just thinking he's got strong contingency upside. Wide receiver, it's this feels good. Debo Samuel, Stephon Diggs, and Rashee Rice. Okay. And then tight end, thank you, Chris, for the delay here. Chiga Okonkwo, Jonnu Smith, and Luke Musgrave. I mean, that is just that's exactly how we drew it up.
Chig, Jonnu, and Musgrave, you said?
Yeah, that's if I could take those 3 every time, I would.
This
all right.
JJ.
Yeah, I think I can't do Bijan over JJ. That feels a bridge too far to me.
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay. My quarterbacks, Gino, Herbert, and Burrow, and then Stafford, which is kind of relevant for what's about to come. Then Zach Moss, Jaleel McLaughlin, Josh Jacobs, Joe Mixon. And then wide receiver is Cooper Kupp, Tyler Lockett, Jermaine Burton. And tight end is Noah Fant, Travis Kelce, Kyle Pitts.
What percentage of your Burrow teams are not with either Chase or Higgins?
I think I could bro science figure it out right now and say a lot because of the Jermaine Burton exposure and because my Chase exposure is only like 6-ish%, which is like below. So it's kind of like a weird one to be like a little high on Burrow and the offense, but then be underexposed to Chase at the moment.
Right.
So I think that's kind of like, I don't know, call it a hole, call it a perk. I'm not sure yet, but my Higgins is a little ahead at like 13%. And then the Burton one at 18. And then a lot of Zach Moss, I guess, would mean I'm pairing Burrow with Moss at a decent clip as well.
That checks out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think that's an interesting angle too, because you think about, the reason Burrow falls in most of these pocket passers is because people don't want to take them without the stack. Whereas guys like Kyler and Jordan Love will rarely fall because people are pretty content to take the rushing, take the backdoor stack. So having some of those builds with a Burrow, Burton, Gesicki, Burrow, the running back, Burton, obviously I think you want to take at least one pass catcher to like realize that upside and leverage if one of the other guys don't hit. But I think getting to that build that not a lot of people want to do definitely makes sense.
Yeah, it does feel a little uncomfortable. Naz, I think you know who you want to pick based on what you've been talking about today.
I have been pumping the Jonathan Taylor stuff, so it would be kind of fraudish to not take him at 20, but you guys are more than welcome to override me here with a wide receiver.
No, let's do it.
Yeah, I'm cool with it.
Take two best of the positions. Why not?
Yeah, absolutely. I want to thank 2 people here. Mike Warner, not related, but love to see him becoming a member there. And then big respects to our guy Bindles here, who is really embracing this new profile pic angle after Pete called him out for looking like a fucking LinkedIn profile. Now he's gone full pendulum swing, Miami Bindles all the way over here with the pit vibes. And whatever. Yeah, not related. There we go. Oh, he changed his display picture on us too to prove that he was not related. But I appreciate you guys joining up and Bindles gifted one out there.
Big Bindles fans over here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Bindles putting the best ball community on his back these days. In every chat, giving out memberships, streaming around the clock. Shout out to Bindles.
Love it.
Eli Mitchell
right.
himself. Oh, sorry, I was gonna say Eli Mitchell himself asking why I'm so confident in Deebo Samuel. Could be a hater, but he is getting. I'm about to get on my goddamn soapbox, you guys.
Get on it.
When you are 29 years old, you are not old. You can still play football at an elite level at the age of 29. I promise you guys, when you are 29, you can still be the best at your. Oh my gosh. Like, it's crazy. We want the age curve to hit so badly. Like, I promise you it doesn't work like that. It does not work like that. Keenan Allen is not a physical specimen. Is not a physical specimen by any stretch of the imagination. He is still one of the best at what he does at his old age in quotations here. We really just got to stop using these guys hitting their late 20s. And it also feels like a personal attack as me turning 32 very soon. It's just not. We got to come up with better bear cases than he's 28 years old.
Yeah, I mean, like, guys take care of their body so much better now too than ever in years past, and like the wide receiver position is less physical than maybe it's ever been as well. I would add. So like I could definitely see that, but I do kind of agree in some respects where it's like, what's the biggest components of Deebo's game? Well, their speed. And that's the thing that kind of is like the first to go. But yeah, 28, 29 doesn't feel like a big age cliff to me quite yet.
He's 28 years old, man. Like, what do you got? You guys think Deebo Samuel's coming out here running like 5.4 40s? This is insane.
Yeah. The counter is exactly what Yosh is saying here. It's like Deebo doesn't play the position the way other people play the position.
Well, good thing he's only 28 years old.
All right, we're on the clock. I've been taking a lot of digs lately. He's been one of the guys I've started to click more. I know John loves Cup, but what do you guys want to do here?
John, I think it's gonna be a 2-1 vote for Diggs over Cup here. So I think we do Diggs.
I'm a Diggs maxi.
Yeah.
Big fan of Diggs. Another one who he's getting old, guys. Can we take a 30-year-old Stephon Diggs in one of the best offenses in football? I'm not sure. He only had 160 targets last year. Not sure the guy still has it. Like, let's just count on these guys being good until you see it, and you will probably do better in best ball for it.
Question for you, John, on the Cup stuff, because the guys were talking about it on ADP chasing this week. Are you playing the Cup stance as if like Puka is overvalued, or are you saying like, I think both of these guys can feast and coexist alongside of each other, even with high-end outcomes?
I'm playing it as coexist high-end outcomes and just hope you encapsulate the spike weeks from Cup come playoff time opposed to Puka. It's kind of an overarching bet on the offense. My Puka exposure isn't like a if-then statement and I'm down on it. It's more just being in on passing game. My Kyron stance is a little bit down comparatively, but Puka is 10% for me as of right now. And the Cup one, actually, I don't even think I said my Cup one. It's not even crazy. It's 29. So
yeah, that's significant. What and then the follow-up question on that, what is your Matthew Stafford exposure if you're kind of bullish on that entire passing game?
He's my fourth highest quarterback at 12%.
Then that it all checks out, John. I was trying to get the gotcha, but I couldn't.
Let me pull this board up. I apologize. This is not usually my forte. Got a couple really strong high T starts going on here with Humble Legend doing his thing and Crash Rich, potentially robot, potentially human, going 3 RBs with a Sam Laporta to cap that off.
I was really looking forward to meeting him at the Dog Bowl.
Yeah, me too. Next year he'll be back. What do you guys think here?
Andrews.
Pete?
Yeah, because I think, are we content? I think we'll probably want to go a couple wide receivers at the 5-6. I'm always, I mean, I'm never going to say no to Andrews. We got the Diggs correlation, and it also sets us up for a CJ Stroud fall as well. Kind of play that game.
Yeah, you guys are helping me out with the Andrews exposure. I am only at 7% across all of my drafts, so this will help. It's a drop in the bucket.
That's a field. Yeah. Actually, let me check mine. I think he's my 4th highest tight end. 15%. Yeah. Actually, I threw out a tweet earlier today just before we jumped on it. It kind of stemmed off the back of the conversations that Mark and I were having this morning here, where it's like the pendulum of variance swings both ways. Everybody's heard me say that a million times. And just talking about how you bake variance into your rosters. And like people will talk about it as like player archetypes. They'll talk about it as contingent upside. They'll talk about it as better in best ball and spike weeks. But effectively, like we're all saying the same thing, that we're looking for paths to like some outlier performance, right? Is there a case for any outlier player to smash harder in these style formats than TJ Hawkinson?
No, I'm glad. It's so funny. I saw your tweet, and Michael Dubner and I had started working on a video for next week. Where almost like the exact same topic of who are the players that are basically non-rookies that are discounted because of not having front-weighted production. And in previous years, we've had the suspension guys. Obviously, Rashee Rice is kind of that dude. This year, we had the Hopkins one, in years past, the Jameson Williams. And so, yeah, I'm right there with you of wanting to think through that. I think the injury stuff does complicate it more than the suspension, right? Rashee Rice comes back. We know he's healthy. He's going to be on the field. And then you have to get a little bit more in the medical weeds. But I agree with you. I've been giving it a lot longer thought. I have another thing on that I want to bring up and see how you guys think about that after we make this 5th round pick.
Don't
buddy?
Auto draft, Chris. Don't auto draft.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we did it. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Which
you have been promoted.
Which is funny because you normally we flipped it, right? Like normally you just take, if you're playing the ADP game, you take Lamar first and then Andrews has the later ADP. But I do think in sharp rooms, it's kind of the way to play it because people are more interested in a one-off Andrews than they are in trying to backdoor stack Lamar.
Yeah, 100%, especially when like Zay goes on the other side of the board every single time. So it's like, people aren't really interested in like the Bateman getting over on and like playing it through like Bateman likely. Nez and I both shared builds, how we did try that in a couple of rooms. Actually, this morning's BBM, when I was in the overflow draft for your guys's Spoolcast there, I did it from the other side of the board in the 3-4. And that looks so much worse now, seeing that we were able to obtain this at the 4-5, because I did it with Zay Flowers from the 111 and Lamar on that side of the board, just thinking of a slightly different way to do it and play through Zay opposed to Andrews.
And this is the spot in a draft where I feel like if I can get 2 wide receivers I like here in the 6th and 7th, I'm just like, God, this build feels so good. Whereas then if I don't, or you're in a crazy wide receiver run, then I start to like do the 2v2s in my mind and be like, man, do I wish I had one more upside wide receiver with this start? I don't know. How do you guys feel about that?
I think we're going to be lucky if we get like JSN here. Depends on how nice this room ends up being to us, but like Crash Rich is about to hammer wide out. Weidler's going to hammer wide out. Viper just loves to see me writhe in pain. He's hammering wide out. Torres is a shit.
Now that you're planting the seeds, dude, we need some positive fucking manifest vision board stuff.
Sorry to be a self-fulfilling prophecy, but it's we're about to get a piss ton of yellow coming our way.
Get Bria on the stream. Can you take a back seat here? We need some positive mantra, man. We needed to build us up here.
I almost did, and it would have aged like milk. I almost did a segment where I was going to give you the tea from Bria about Kelsey. She had some knowledge on Kelsey. She watches these celebrity. Hold on, I'll fill you in a second here. We got to go wide receiver, I think.
Yeah,
and
I'm fine with either of the rookies. I'm honestly fine with any of the wide receivers.
I vote Thomas.
Okay, cool. I like Brian Thomas.
Yep.
So she watches this like celebrity tarot card reader. It's actually very entertaining. I watch it with her. It's what you do. And he's always doing Taylor Swift readings. So I'm like, Bria, like, what do you think about Kelsey and Swift. Like, you think they're still, there's no way they're still together. They're not, they haven't been seen together. He's touring. He's not answering questions about her at camp. Like, and it's going to get in his head, and he's going to have a rough season because he's constantly having to answer these questions. Well, he just went to the concert and did the Fernando Rodney, Archer to her. So that would have aged like milk.
Oh,
planting that seed.
Fellas, I forgot I do have to run here at 3. I very much trust that you guys will land the plane, get us wide receivers, but don't feel like you have to take Rashid Shaheed here at this next pick. It doesn't have to get that bad. I will catch you guys soon here.
We'll make you proud.
All right, peace.
All right, let's do it. There we go. Yeah, we got some good news though from Pete today that most likely not going to have to dip on us in the future. It's been a couple times now. Yeah, it's been a couple times
we got
now
weight.
Where they had. Yeah, they had overlapping meetings and whatnot there, but I think we got that stuff sorted going forward here.
Yeah, we used some muscle over at the Fantasy Life Incorporated. Like, you guys got to clear that schedule out, and now we're gonna have more of Pete, which is what everybody wants.
Absolutely, us included. All right, Nez, let's see what we got, dude.
All right, 1131. By the way, for the audio listeners, Lamar Jackson, Jonathan Taylor, Mark Andrews, and then our 3 wide receivers: Justin Jefferson, Stephon Diggs, and Brian Thomas. I would probably feel best with a wide receiver here, but we'll see what our boy Chris does. Do you have a preference on a pick here if it's not wide receiver or if it is wide receiver?
I think I have a preference on 2 picks. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm trying to think through some of the correlation stuff. There goes the 1 pick I wanted.
Yep.
So, yeah. Man, Coleman just has a chance to be the worst priced player on the board, like, period. Doesn't really.
I think this guy's runner up for that.
Yeah, it's true. Should we just take the safety of the running back and take David Montgomery here?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, Coleman and Jameson Williams jump out to me as like 2 guys that could just end up aging, as you alluded to earlier, like milk.
Yeah, they're super risky, right? That's where we start to, even for me as former JMO Bull 2 years running, it gets a little dicey at this range when you can just bank on so many more projectable points at like every other pick on the board. I think it's smart to not ignore that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even when it feels bad. That's when you just got to trust the quantity aspect of drafting and try to make up for it in the aggregate.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. That's well said. Jake asking, this is BBM, dude. We're doing a BBM here, different beast than the rest here. I love this from Nathan here. Matthew Perry makes room for the BadgeBros, not the other way around. That's hysterical. Yeah, I mean, like, I see the Pepper Tony saying like Coleman for the upside there. I do see the upside swing in Coleman, but like, I don't know, man. I just don't love it for whatever reason. Like I haven't drank the Kool-Aid yet. I know Liam's talked about it a couple times that like it takes at least an off season to implement an offense, and Joe Brady didn't want to be as run heavy as they were at the tail end of last year, and they're going to come out and they're going to pass, and it just scares me that they went out and they got like Curtis Samuel. They targeted him as like a player that they wanted to build around. We saw Khalil Shakir perform well in the postseason last year. I don't know. Like, they obviously value Keon Coleman greater than our, dynasty and player evaluating landscape did leading up to the draft, like they as a team do. But like, it still scares me, man.
I think it just there's. I think one way to think about this, right, is what are the odds that Keon Coleman like buries you? Just destroys you. That just doesn't feel likely when I would take straight up Curtis Samuel over Keon Coleman this season, and he goes so much cheaper.
I guess
that just does not feel likely to me.
I guess if we're debating ceiling outcome, I imagine like the Keon Coleman ceiling outcome is just like exponentially higher. Like the right tail is higher than Curtis Samuel. But that being said, like I in a vacuum, I can't fight you on that. Just wanting him like from a week to week mean projection score and like total season long output. If we look up and we see that like Keon Coleman had scored 80 underdog points this year and Curtis Samuel scored 140, I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest, right?
And I think there is something to be said about after these two picks go, there's not a single like wide receiver. Well, there goes Cortland Sutton, but like just such a stark tier break when
Yeah.
in reality, like maybe they should actually be here and you should start to see more green go, but obviously it depends on the room and who is up and who needs to, fill out their rosters in certain ways and whatnot. All right. I'm going to just throw these wide receivers in the queue so we can see them because we're not going to see them whenever we pull up ADP. And then this can kind of help make our decisions here. And I don't think we are in the market for a quarterback or a tight end, to be quite honest. So I'm just going to toss them off the screen as well. Thoughts on this pick here? Do you like Tyler Lockett? I mean, he's just.
I mean, you're looking at two of my highest exposed players in Tyler Lockett and Zach Moss. So pick your poison, whichever position you think we need.
I think we need Tyler Lockett.
Sounds good to me.
I love this like upcoming running back tier though. All these guys I feel very, very strongly about from pick 91 to pick 110. And then you can even extend that a little bit down to like the Charbonnet range.
Yeah, I mean, many are calling it the glory hole, my friend. Many are calling it the glory hole.
Tom and Tyler, man. There's
if you guys haven't seen that Fantasy Sanctuary video yet, go watch it because I think it's very intelligent. Like we talk about the RB dead zone in years past and blah blah blah, and he juxtaposes that with where the value is. We talked about it a little bit yesterday, Nez, where we think like the power of zero RB. It's like kind of counterintuitive that as running back prices get cheaper, well, zero RB becomes more powerful because the RBs in which you're getting now are more talented than the ones that you would traditionally have gotten in zero RB builds, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, it is very interesting because if everybody is doing like in the past when you would go zero RB, you were one of the only people in the room doing it.
Right.
And now it's like everybody's doing zero RB because you it's out of necessity, right? I mean, it's just kind of interesting. It's like we're still building the same. Except we're just taking them at different points in the draft,
Yep, fully agree there.
I mean, I don't have a.
Appreciate Tyler rolling through here with that 269 royalties for the glory hole. Respect it. Thank you.
It's always for the bet, man. That's gonna.
Yeah. Who's up in the queue here, Nez? What do we got?
We still got our three beautiful wide receivers here. Freudian slip. But I mean, I'm personally just like out of principle opposed to a quarterback or a tight end here. It is a 5-pick discount on Bowers, but I don't know that is a luxury pick that we have allotted to us at this point.
Okay. You and I agree to disagree on that.
I mean, like when you have all that when you have the capital already dedicated to it, and like these are our wide receivers 3 and 4. I mean, you can get other wide receivers later, but
yeah, I just don't see anyone who moves the needle for me. I guess Shaheed. I don't know which one is your favorite of that grouping.
I would go Tony Pollard here.
Okay, and you want to go the running back route then?
I would rather like lock up. So my thought on
week 17.
Yep, yeah, with Brian Thomas there. My thought with a running back there is getting like I think Tony Pollard and or David Montgomery will be hitting our flex more often than Tyler Lockett or another wide receiver.
Yep.
And that to me felt more pertinent at this point in time is filling out that starting lineup here. And we're getting dangerously close, depending on what our next 2 picks are, to this maybe being a 4 RB team.
Yeah, I could see it. I could see it. Talked a little bit with Mark today about that 3 RB team he built and like the 4 and like the archetype of players which you would use to define a 4 and a 3. I think just because you spend capital on the position doesn't necessarily mean it's a good 3 or 4 spot. Montgomery, Pollard, and JT was okay for 4, I guess. But like, I think I would rather have like Jonathan Brooks in there or something as like an extreme outlier who's like, because I've basically written off the fact in my mind that like David Montgomery or Tony Pollard could ever finish as like the overall RB1 this season. Whereas like Jonathan Brooks, there's a non-zero chance, like just in terms of like how extreme an outlier he could be. I would even throw like Zamir White in that camp where it's like, him when Zach Moss could be like extreme outliers and finishes RB1. And that's coming from a guy who loves Pollard, but yeah,
That's
I don't know. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Zamir White and Zach Moss potentially finishing as RB1. I mean, these are just that's just fully John coded. That is, those are your guys.
Well, yeah, sort of. I think it's just like path to volume plus usage that like other guys might not have. So I think that was just kind of like like the likelihood is still like less than like 4% that any of them could. But yeah, I don't know. I just like think through like archetype where it's like for a 4 running back team, I would want at least one of them to have that like insane ceiling output. Whereas like our next 2 running backs feel like a little more floory than would.
Well,
like
we do
even
have
like
Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, it's fair. Let's take Jacoby here. I mean, we could try and push it around the corner, but I think like Jacoby's just flat mispriced. I like it. And this team needs like professional ass wide receiver with a little bit of like mean projection associated with it. Could quarterback play be poor? Absolutely. But when our wide receiver room looks the way it is here, I think like a little bit of a condom pick. Traditionally speaking, I think I take Mike Will and Trey Benson over him, but I think for this roster it made sense.
We need more wide receivers. That is the objective truth.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we both are in agreement on Jacoby Myers being a good pick. I mean, yeah, I totally like you're not saying anything outlandish if you come out and say that I think the Raiders will be bad this season. Like, where'd you get that idea? But we saw what we saw Minshew do for the wide receivers on Indianapolis is like make them very fantasy viable. Mm-hmm. It's Jacoby, it's Devontae Adams, and it's a rookie tight end who's very good, who we think is going to be very good. But like, man, Jacoby's target shares have been so strong. I'm personally not fearful of him catching passes from Gardner Minshew. And I tell you what, man, if that photo shoot that they had with him doesn't scream QB1, I don't know what does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Bendos brings up a good point here about the Demont there, but it's like we're baking in the fact that that's contingent upside, and I think that's the difference. Whereas like I like to think through like what's not contingent upside and could he be RB1 just on his lonesome? And the answer is just like no.
But do you think Zach Moss and Zamir White have the skill to be overall RB1 like you said?
I mean, Zach Moss led the NFL in both rushing yards and yards per carry last year for the first 8 weeks. So non-zero. And now he moves to a better offense. Yeah, I mean, like it's obviously still like a long shot bet, but interested to see here. Did Trevor Lawrence go yet? He already did, right? He's QB 14.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. I wanted one of Cooks or Wicks to come back there, I think, but I'd be pretty happy with a Mike Dub. I would have suggested.
Chris says otherwise here.
Yeah. Oh, man, I'm warming up to Eckler. It's gross, but I'm warming up to it.
Throw him in the queue.
I think wide receiver probably feels better here. Downs.
Dotson, Davis, or Down? You like Downs?
Downs.
All right, let's do it. Yeah, we were kind of forced to go wide receiver there. It is what it is. And
you get a little.
I was gonna say, we've got we get a little teammate correlation.
Yeah, that's where I was.
Jonathan Taylor, Josh Downs.
Mm-hmm.
I think our QB2 is picked for us at this point.
I don't know about that. I don't know.
you don't like that Week 17 matchup?
I think it's fine. Like, I don't know. I've been warming up to Raiders playoff schedule in general here too. Like, that's one that I was thinking.
What is their playoff schedule?
Atlanta, Jacksonville, and New Orleans. So 2 indoor games, 1 outdoor game, all good weather. 2 divisional competing ones, and one that's potential shootout environment. I don't know. It feels okay.
I think I agree with you. Other than John, other than the fact it's supposed to be, prayers, that this is not going to be as bad as they expected, but it is supposed to be a very bad hurricane season this year.
Oh, here we go. Catch, dude.
I don't know what this is going to mean for Florida's weather patterns, but we're not that far removed from the downpour game in Tampa Bay. And that game just being an absolute slog when it mattered most. I don't mean to throw a complete wrench in this Raiders playoff schedule, because that is very nice. That is very nice, but we got to be on the lookout for that. I'll pick up my Farmer's Almanac when I go to the store, and I'm not going to buy it. I'm just going to read it real quick and see.
Okay, so what could that potentially play into? Tampa Bay at home versus Carolina in Week 17. Jacksonville has their at home Tennessee. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I hear you.
Oof.
I hear you. The Jags Week 16 game in Las Vegas's defense is in Las Vegas. It's at home.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Good. So we got 3 dome games.
Let's go. We're
Atlanta,
alive.
Jacksonville, and New Orleans. Wow. Hurricane. Yeah, the hurricane stuff. Yeah, Finn will say the only place you can get the hurricane alpha, ladies and gentlemen. Hurricane narrative is a new one. That is the El Nino of my generation.
We're praying it's overstated.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sharbs.
Your Sharbs here? See, I would.
Who do you like?
I would throw my hat in the ring for maybe Chandler or Rico, but I am cool with Sharbs. He correlates with Tyler Lockett. I'm cool with Sharbs.
Yeah, I think I'm good with any of them. I think I lean the Minnesota stuff when I have some Green Bay stuff more so. But yeah, Sharbs feels like the one to me.
Yeah, I think honestly, like I'm totally fine with Sharbs. Since you suggested we're drafting together, I don't fully oppose to him. I do think I am like Chandler over Sharbs though. Overall, just thinking through that backfield, sharing with Aaron Jones, like a guy who, whether it was coaching philosophy or just understanding what they have in the player, which I think it's more the latter than the former, just wasn't ever handling a large workload, where that gives Chandler, I think, more standalone value than Sharbs. But, if their respective backfield mates go down, Sharbs, I think, has the stronger smash if he has that backfield to himself than Chandler if to himself. But I think which is, we're trying to win $1.5 million. I think your pick and that thought process makes more sense.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you there. Just in terms of like contingent upside versus like split backfield and could just like find his way into usage. The one wrinkle I would throw in is maybe Sharbs' usage has changed ever so slightly this year, and they just like him more because they weren't the ones who did the drafting and that sort of thing. So like new coaching regime, new front office regime, like that sort of thing. Maybe Ken Walker was a Pete Carroll guy, and that's why he was that. And maybe the new coaching staff actually just likes Sharbs better. That's the only like one little caveat I would add to it, just playing devil's advocate. Not that I necessarily believe it.
No, I think that is like, I think most people drafting would probably agree that Sharps and Ken Walker are not that, talent wise, obviously stylistically they have differences, not that much different as far as like who is the better running back.
Mhm.
It could totally we could totally see a flippening where it's like, wow, like imagine us doing a show, John, like week 3. Look at these
Yep.
snap shares, Sharps and Ken Walker, like
Right.
they're slowly flippening. I'm
Yeah.
you can that would not surprise me at all. But I don't think you're not drafting like that every single time. But these are outcomes that can totally happen over the course of the season. Okay. As far as correlation goes, I don't see anything here. I think this is a wide receiver, and God, man, is Pete gonna kill us
Let's do
when
it, baby. Let's do it. Let's
he's gonna be
take
so
old balls.
pissed.
Let's take old balls at him.
He's gonna be so mad at us. We're the only reason that he has any exposure to Adam Thielen whatsoever.
Add tip to the ETR, baby. That's yeah. We're buying into the QB whisperer there, Little Dave Callahan, like just coming in here, right?
Canales?
Canales nailed it. Fucking ex
Tommy
Seahawk guy,
Callahan?
ex Baker guy, Canales.
Selling brake pads out here?
Yeah, nailed it.
Yeah, no, I think if Adam Thielen is going to do what he did last year, and the idea that his production is front loaded, I think that's fine because we have some guys that could probably use some front loading for. I mean, we're gonna end up taking some shots here, John.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, I just want to go back to the Ty Chandler and Aaron Jones thing. That was something that I thought was interesting that I was looking through in the past. We kind of talked about it on our daily shows last year when like drafting Aaron Jones, where it was like he basically hadn't had 20 plus carries in a game in like 3 years. I think it was two times, if memory serves, that between 2021, 22, and 23, he had 20 plus carries in a game. And then all of a sudden, tail end of last year, it was like 5 out of 6 games. Pretty crazy that just like the stark change
Yeah,
in terms of his usage. Like it was always like he was a low volume rusher, he was a pass catching guy, he was a whatever. And then all of a sudden to close out last year. Now obviously he's going to a completely new scenario and blah blah blah. I just found it was very interesting and something that I was looking back on and looking through.
that
Yeah, I
was
guess
kind of
there's
like during like their must win games, right?
yeah.
Where like they like, hey, if they wanted to win, insert Aaron Jones, very good football player, and it was like if he dies, he dies. I mean, the Vikings are in a very precarious scenario, are they not? Where like they bring him in on a 1-year
Mhm.
deal. Does that sound like a team that's like in a transition year to like bring in a run? Like I've always thought of them as like a team in transition. They have a rookie quarterback that is likely not to start the season.
Mhm.
Sam Darnold, we really don't know what we will see out of him. Did he get a fair shake in New York? And we see what all these replacement level quarterbacks do when they step into the Viking system. Could he keep the job longer than we expect? All these factors. And then like that Aaron Jones signing is like, this team,
Thinks they can go for it.
right. And
Yeah.
the defense was better than, the defense improved last year as well. Is this a team looking to kick a little ass? And does Aaron Jones like, do they just it's very interesting. This Vikings
Yeah.
team, man, is very I think I gotta start to reframe the way I think about them.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe delusional or not, they do think they can compete this year. But yeah, just like the Kevin O'Connell factor just makes that offense just so valuable in my opinion. Um, just getting like little pieces of it, right?
Yeah,
I was
he's very
shocked to
clearly
hear
good.
Chuba was one of your highest exposed running backs.
Yeah, dude. I it's very much a play on, is Jonathan Brooks going to start the season on the pup? Is he going to start the season off slow? He just felt like decent floor running back production. What are your thoughts?
Either Algier or Bucky Irving here. If you want to give Pete some love, you do the Bucky Irving thing. If you want to play the contingent Algier thing, we play that.
I'm gonna go Algier.
Okay, sounds good to me.
This wide receiver range to me is like all the exact same. This is I mean, from Roman Wilson to Jalen Tolbert, I don't think that there is much difference here. Pop Douglas to like Javon Baker, I couldn't. You could flip a coin for who's going to finish with more fantasy production for me.
Yeah, I think that's where it just comes into like who correlates, who can be part of a stack, who can be whatever. But I do think Michael Wilson stands out as a name to me. I know the targets may not be there just given like how plentiful some of the other options are, but I do think we've gone down that Arizona thing where like who's guaranteed money and who's going to be on the team, blah blah blah. Long term, I do think if they have any path to being like good and competing over the next 3-year window, that he's going to have to be like the outside uh, wide receiver and 2 wide receiver sets running alongside um, Marvin Harrison Jr.
I take a lot of Michael Wilson. Are you letting yourself get Greg Dortch pilled?
Maybe a little bit just because of the coach speak and because of the Kyler speak. And if I need like a backdoor stack on the Kyler stuff that's just dirt cheap and I miss on that, I'll tack him on. I tacked him on earlier when I did a Marvin Harrison team. So yeah, I mean I'll tack him on for like an easy double, but I don't necessarily love it. It does feel very like Rondell Moore-esque, but they did show faith in trading Rondell Moore away to, like him.
I think that's fair to say. And like you said, man, the coach speak on him is very, very strong. It's very, very strong. And we have per route data to kind of back it up on as far as what they see in him. Yeah, he's just always there in the 18th round. I'm not doing it a ton, but just because like there's nothing wrong with taking a player like him if he is not like no one expects him to be Puka, right? Where he's breaking fantasy, but that obviously is so otherworldly. There's nothing wrong with Greg, like taking a Greg Dortch and him just like helping you get out of your pod,
Yeah, I hear you. Can you go to the quarterbacks tab?
Yeah, it's terrible.
Well, what is your mindset here for like landing this plane with quarterback?
Well, to me the QB2 like does not matter. We have Lamar Jackson. It literally doesn't matter.
Yeah, you and
but
I are drafting very differently this year.
we made we made a gigantic bet. If it's not Lamar Andrews,
let's do Chig and Will Levis then.
I'm always down for Chig. Like,
I mean, we've made out a little bit of a Tennessee thing with Pollard there. We got run back with Brian Thomas.
We have Will Gino Levis too with Lockett.
Yeah. So we can fall back on one of those two. But I didn't make sure that their bye weeks weren't overlapping with Mark Andrews, but that one felt like a good one. Yeah, you and I are very different with that. Like, I don't treat it like 2 years ago or 3 years ago, I would have treated this as like, yeah, this is a Lamar team. Lamar carries us. The quarterback 2 doesn't matter, like blah, blah, blah. I'm very different now in terms of like how I correlate. I don't mind spending 2 picks on quarterback. I think quarterback scoring is just very, very important, and correlating those touchdowns with your tight ends is very, very important in terms of the way Underdog scoring is versus other sites. Will Levis goes there, so
yeah,
RIP that plan.
We have options. We're all right. Well, there's no other like by week 14 QB that we have to worry about if we do end up like getting put in a pinch, and we have some other stack options there as well. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to downplay necessarily the importance of having like a secondary stack. But this team is so reliant on Lamar and Mark Andrews being
for sure
those guys that you need. I mean, it to me that is the story that we tell. Now, I think you're right where that doesn't necessarily mean that that it becomes like totally ignorable to the point that I'm kind of like stating that is a point well taken. Like it definitely doesn't have to be all or nothing, I guess.
Yeah, like I mean, especially when you're spending like your last 2 picks and we've shut it down at running back after spending like a second round pick on like the guy that you think is going to break the slate. Like not you, but like we have agreed on in this roster will break the slate. Uh I mean, like even though it's a Lamar team, I'm not crazy opposed to like 3 quarterbacks, or even though it's insert other quarterback that you spent early capital on. Yeah. Even I think that goes for the tight end position too. Like even though it's an Andrews team, like Andrews plus Chig. Yeah, I mean, like I might even tack on like if Fant was still here, like doing like a Fant plus Gino or something like that.
Yeah, I could have got down for that. I think this is Gino for me. What about you?
Yeah, I think it kind of has to be now. Like we made the Sharps, we made the Lockett bet, we got froze out on the backdoor Levis. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, 29 picks of Aaron Rodgers is great value, but for what? Like to get sniped on Tyler Conklin before it comes back, and it just
Yeah.
that just doesn't make sense. Congrats to whoever is stacking the Jets. I mean, you earned that, but like I think that it is very easy to, see the value. I think for a lot of people and just be like, oh well, like it's a good quarterback value. Make the pick. It's great value, but when you're talking about CLV back here, it's not meaningless, but it's close to meaningless, especially for an uncorrelated QB.
I like it. I don't know what this reference is. What's the Dark Crystal? Bindle's asking if you've ever seen the Dark Crystal.
Is that like
movie?
something that you can give your soul to get run good in the BBM streets? If so, I'll point me the way. Who needs a soul?
Baby. Jake Ham asking how we're handling the quarterback situation for Minnesota there. I think I've done JJ McCarthy tacked on as a third quarterback. I've done 0% Sam Darnold, but I'm not comfortable doing it with just like 2. So yeah, I kind of just leave it.
I could do a little bit of him here. We'll see.
Yeah, not terrible. I mean, my issue right now with this like last quarterback pick is like I'm not sure. I know I alluded to the Hawkinson one earlier. I'm not sure there's a higher weekly ceiling embrace variance pick available this late other than Justin Fields. So I'm like, I would just take Justin Fields naked almost every time as just a one-off because we've seen him break a billion slates in my life, and now all of a sudden we just get him in the last round. Give me that variance. And like the most likely outcome is your third quarterback's not scoring for you anyways. So like, why not just take the shot at a 60 burger? Not on this site, but like without the bonuses, but like, why not take a shot at like a 40 burger, right?
I think in other builds, yes. When we are looking at stack options here, I think that would be short-sighted to do something like that when we have stack options. I mean, even as like I want Fields to start so badly, and I know Russell Wilson kind of sucks, but yeah, I'm kind of more in like the bearish camp of Fields seeing the field this season, but that's just me, probably a protective stance as a fan because I want to see Fields so bad that I don't want to get my hopes up.
Yeah.
What do you think here, man? Because obviously we have we have Young to Thielen, but I think JJ.
Yeah, so you do want to make it a 3 quarterback and then get that JJ stack?
I think so, unless you want to do Jawan Johnson, because we can kind of wait on that. What do you think? Or Kate Otten?
No, I'm good with JJ. I think.
Okay.
Yeah. What's your ideal build for this team?
Well, we're almost there.
Yeah. But like before that pick, what was it?
Probably. Well, we're too far gone. Like I don't like any of these running backs left. So it probably would have been.
I don't think we need a running back.
Well, I would have probably made this a 2-6-8-2 if it was me, myself, and I, and gotten that 6th running back sooner.
Interesting. Yeah, I wouldn't have touched another running back. I definitely would have capped this team at 5 after the Taylor Montgomery Pollard picks.
Yeah, I don't know where that 6 would have been. Like looking at the board, I think my cutoff. Yeah, I mean, it would have been tough because
this would have been
I don't know where that
for
6
me.
would have. I don't know where that 6 would have came from. I guess 2583 for you.
Yeah.
When it comes to the tight end cutoff too, like after Jonnu and Chig, I guess no, likely would have been bad. What tight end do you like late? Like Juwan? I think Cade. We could have definitely like taken a Cade or Juwan instead of JJ here and left it with Lamar and Geno. But right now, I think this is definitely 8 wide receivers.
Yeah, now it's no
matter what.
Now
I mean, no matter what,
it's
it would have been
a wide
8.
receiver.
Yeah, I mean, but I like these 18th round wide receiver though is like one of the best picks on the board. No matter like your very last pick in a draft, like it's really really bad unless you end up with like Jawan Johnson and you have the ability to take that hit because he's probably not starting the season. QB, there are QBs there. You mentioned Justin Fields, running back in the 18th, and as of June 26th is awful. It is. I can't make a case for it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just uncertainty based. Well, let's scroll a little bit here.
We are scrolled all the way up.
No, I don't want to scroll up.
John.
Yeah, Tolbert or Boyd, I guess. Boyd doubles down on the Tennessee stuff, which might be bad, to be honest.
Too late.
It's good. It's fine.
Who would you want to scroll down to? Bo Melton or Trey Palmer?
Yeah, Palmer's okay. Palmer doesn't really. Did we end up with the Carolina? But it's Thielen. You don't really want to bank around Thielen as a bring back. Yeah.
This is just a tough room. All my favorite late round picks were taken. Especially when we don't really have it like there's no third option that's draftable on Minnesota. And I mean for the Ravens.
I think A.T. Perry was probably the pick. Second year breakout potential, second run in that room gives us 13 or gives us a 17 correlation with the Raiders stuff. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think it's negligible at this point.
Yeah.
Although I don't know. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on the because like okay, running back versus wide receiver in the last round is like we will never have this much ambiguity at the running back position ever again. You know what I mean? So like it's definitely a more uncomfortable click, but that doesn't mean it's like a bad click. I think it could also get us like the biggest swing at ceiling, right? It's 0. It's like a binary outcome pick. Whereas like if you tack on wide receiver there, especially uncorrelated one, it's kind of like you're just asking for 50 or 60 points and you're going to get like 2 weeks of scoring. Yeah, it's interesting. It's very interesting.
Yeah, there are some targets. Like I think Estime is one of the few that offer, that are clickable for me. But and I've done Tank as well. I think that could have been an option. Maybe not on this team, but we're just talking as far as last round goes, not necessarily for this team itself. But I just don't see the upside. I think when like all these running backs just get like sucked up from the way that the draft landscape is, and to me, like I guess I just don't have the imagination for it.
Yeah, I mean like. Evan Hall or Trey Sermon, not on this roster, but just as like a play in general. P. Ryan playing like the cut angle. Garendo taking over the backfield. Alexander Madison as a take over the backfield.
Garendo taking over the backfield?
Take over the second spot. The second spot.
Maybe.
In the backfield.
Yeah, I mean, this is as opposed to like a third wide receiver. You know what I mean? That's going to see the field for sure. That's where I'm at.
Yeah.
Like it's so much wish casting, but you're right. The upside is what we're aiming for. So
Yeah, they kind of liked Ty Johnson last year for Buffalo. That might be a little too far after they bring in Ray Davis, but maybe they just trust him more. Same vein would be like Jamal Williams. Jamal Williams potentially being like early season usage if something funky goes with the Kamara contract and Kendre Miller is as bad as the reports suggest he might potentially be.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't
that's
know.
definitely
Yeah.
one to keep an eye out for. I'm never closing the door on old Jamal. All right,
Old
let's
being the operative word.
yeah, let's wrap this up for the audio listeners. Let's tell Pete what we did. A 3-5, 8-2 build. We got Lamar, Geno Smith, and JJ McCarthy. Our running back room: Jonathan Taylor, David Montgomery, Tony Pollard, Zach Charbonnet, Tyler Algier. The wide receivers: Jay Jettas, Stephon Diggs, Brian Thomas, Tyler Lockett, Jacoby Myers, Josh Downs, Adam Thielen, Tyler Boyd. You can unplug your nose. And tight end is Mark Andrews, Chiga Okonkwo. John, out of 10, what's your grade?
5.8.
Wow.
6.1.
Oh, we got an extra 0.3. All right, I'm gonna remember that.
Okay.
6.1 on the
Yeah.
confidence interval. Okay.
6.1 on the confidence interval. Like, obviously, I kind of low-key like the Geno stuff. I like the Lamar stack. I like that I loved our start, man. I thought we slapped the start. And then kind of got froze out at wide receiver. But to be honest, the wide receiver room isn't as bad as I kind of thought there. Like, Downs, there's definitely some upside there and non-zero chance that he could be the second in targets on that offense. Myers, same to be said there. Like, they're definitely like floory, like safety net points plays. That being said, Thielen and Boyd are exactly that. I don't know, man. Like, I think we just lack a little bit of ceiling, and a third tight end instead of a third quarterback would do much better here, I think. That would
I would
be
not have done a third at the onesie at all, but
interesting.
if I could take it
Yeah.
back. I mean, dude, when you draft a top 3 QB and a top 3 tight end, like I don't think that's like I don't think you necessarily need that, but that's where my head's at least.
Yeah, I just think about it in terms of like the volatility in touchdowns being scored and like how much touchdowns matter just in raw fantasy points style at the onesies. So yeah, that's kind of been like my new biggest thought this year, I think. And whether it's right or wrong, who knows? But yeah, it's a decent squad. Decent squad, man.
I'll send it to Pete, get his final word.
Yeah.
Well, that'll be the determining factor.
Week 15 revenge for Tyler Boyd. Jacoby Myers is one of the best values this year.
That just raised the score to a 7.3 from a 6.1 to a 7.3.
Okay, we should send that to Pete and then ask him to just grade it. Give us a grade on it and see how close his number comes to mine.
Okay.
That'll be a fun little exercise there. All right, Ned, should we tie a bow on that bad boy?
Let's do it.
Back tomorrow with Hayden Winks, 2 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. Hayden will be joining us right here on the BadgeBros channel. We will talk a little bit more football. We will draft a little bit more football. He's put out a ton of content since his last time on the show. I guess that was about a month ago. So be fun to get a new perspective of a voice that talks a lot about a football, but not a ton about like specifically best ball. So I'd really like to get him in here and like, pick his brain about like everything Underdog that they don't talk about on their channel. Like they talk a lot of football guy stuff and then they relate it to best ball, but it'll be a fun one for sure. Not playing on Underdog Fantasy, use promo code MLB at sign up. That's where Nez and I will be hanging out the remainder of this day, drafting some MLB over there. Canada Day long weekend for me. There will be no show Friday, Monday for me. Maybe Nez is able to do something Monday, Tuesday, or whatever there when you're back from the wedding. But as of right now, no show Friday. So Hayden will be the last show of the week for us there, and then we'll update you guys on the schedule for next week.
Sounds good, man. Everybody, be here tomorrow. Hayden's must see stream. So that'll be a lot of fun to get his takes. It's always refreshing to talk to him about best ball and kind of get some different standpoints. You know, you're always going to get a unique perspective from Hayden. So that'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, 100%, because he's in the bubble, but he's also like doing so much research on his own that he's like slightly outside of it as well. So he doesn't kind of have some of the recycled takes that we do. He kind of goes, look at this market, look what all you idiots have done. Let me fix this for you. Right. So yeah. I'll be very interested to hear some takes from him. All right. For Nez, for Pete, for myself, John, aka Roto Run on the platform of the people there. Everybody's favorite time of the show. The end. Peace.